you check the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And we are here to review the brand new movie by M. Night Shyamalan called Old. Now, this is one that was not delayed by the pandemic, as I understand it. I think this has just been released as a regular schedule. But I was interested in it because I am a fan of Shyamalan. He did have a bit of a rough patch there for a few movies, but I think he was starting to come back around here with Split, and even The Visit I thought wasn't bad. It was an interesting found footage movie. We're gonna do this review like we normally do. Was that a coyote, Marcia?
No, it was my dog.
Oh, okay.
It was Leroy.
Okay.
He
Fair
must
enough.
be mad about something. Who knows?
But yeah, so we are going to give our overall thoughts, then we'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, all that good stuff in turn. And I want to start off with Marcia's opinion on this one. Because ladies first. Marcia, please, what are your thoughts on Shyamalan's Old?
So, it really was like in your face, like you're faced with your own mortality with this movie. You're really forced to like think about all the small things that you're dealing with in the day to day and how they, in the long scheme of things, or even the short time frame as they have it on this movie, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So I thought it was a really good look at a human lifespan and the relationships that we have with one another and how and what we should be valued, what's valuable in our lives and versus what is superficial. However, it really fell short of the last half. Like I kind of knew where they were going before the reveal happened, so it wasn't really that big of a shocker. It just, the reveal ruined the movie for me.
Huh.
I don't think it made sense at all.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. We can dig in. I don't want to give up. I don't want to give in the twist, but I thought the twist was horrible. So it kind of diminished my overall thoughts about the movie. I think the first 3/4 of the movie was intense and it was very like driven, but then the final third was just a disappointment.
Your camera keeps freezing. I'm hearing you the whole way, but the camera keeps freezing, so I don't know what's going on there, unfortunately. So sorry, guys. Okay, so my thoughts are I did not like this movie. I think there was so many things wrong with it, unfortunately. I was really hoping I was going to like it, but there are a lot of issues that I had with it. And ironically enough, Marcia, the end was the only thing I did like about the movie. Because I was like, there better be some good explanation for this. And I actually did. The thing is, I feel like this movie has less of a twist and more so just a logical, actual progression of the story that he's put forth. It's the only time I can really say that. Maybe not the only time. He's done it a couple of other times, but I didn't really feel that there was a twist for this. There was a reveal at the end, but there wasn't a twist per se.
I guess that's a better way of putting it.
But overall, I was frustrated with a lot of aspects of this movie, and we'll get into them as we go here. So just real quick, starting off with the story. The story is about this family of a woman and a man and their 2 children, and there's a bit of conflict going on amidst the marriage. They go to this special resort somewhere down, I don't know, they never really specified, but it's some remote location that is, you know, very Caribbean-like, I suppose you might say, as far as blue water and almost white beaches and stuff like that. They go to this resort, and at one point, they're recommended this remote beach. And they're dropped off, and when they get there, they realize something strange is going on because their kids are growing literally almost in front of them, and they soon realize that everyone is aging at a rapid pace, and yet they are somehow trapped in this area, unable to escape, so they need to find a way to do so. And as far as the story goes, I did like the setup, but I feel like it was handled so clumsily all along the way that, I mean, as far as story goes, I liked the setup, but I just feel like, as I said, it was handled clumsily all along the way, so it didn't really fulfill what I feel like the story could have done had it been handled a bit more deftly. So ultimately, like I said, I did like how the story was resolved. I did enjoy that, but realistically, that's 7 to 10 minutes of the movie. and the movie is an hour and 49 minutes. So that's about as much of the movie that I really, really enjoyed. Marcia, how did you feel about how the story unfolded?
I mean, again, I was just more interested in the human aspect versus like what was really presented, right? Like the immediate relationships between the family dynamics was interesting, but then the interaction between the families didn't make sense. Like how they were trying to resolve the problem at hand didn't make sense. The science that they tried to explain didn't make sense. And even just the reveal at the end, like what they were trying to accomplish with the island and using these people, it just scientifically is flawed. So I think that threw me. So the only thing that was interesting to me about the story was the interrelationships with the family dynamics and their story and their background. Other than that, everything else just seemed flawed. And so I couldn't get, well, I had to look over the whole point of the movie about them getting old because it didn't make sense to me.
That's an inherent problem, right? If the story plays out in a way that you think negates, everything that you've seen, that's a problem. I don't feel that happened. I just feel like, again, the way that it was executed was just fumbled, so many ways along the way. Let's start off by the acting. I feel like there was a few people that were enjoyable, but there was a lot of questionable performances in this movie. A lot of questionable performances, a lot of annoying performances to a fault, I think, unfortunately. There was only a few people that I actually enjoyed. And let's be real, M. Night has decided to step his own game up. He is no longer cameo. He is a full-fledged character in this movie. And that brings me out of it, especially when he goes to the effort of putting himself before the movie, thanking us for coming back to the theater. Did you get that when you went and saw it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that played...
Oh, wait, no, I don't think I did. No,
really?
No.
Okay, so in ours, in the one I saw, he came on ahead of time and was like, thank you guys so much for coming out to the theater. Growing up as a filmmaker, I always wanted to make movies for people in the theater, and it's so great that you guys come back, so enjoy the movie. And then you, see him within 20 minutes of the movie starting, in the movie, and you're like, oh, I'm pulled out of the movie immediately. And then not only does he not have a cameo, not only is it a speaking role, but it's a speaking role that recurs. I think that unfortunately that took me out of it, and the bad acting of a few of the actors not the bad acting, but the not so great acting of a few of the actors, and the ones I'll identify would be, I think the spoiled, vain blonde was a little bit much. I felt that her husband was over the top. He was like two shades, like he was know-it-all doctor or slightly off kind of thing. No real depth there. I liked the core family, and I felt like the nurse was a little weak to me. His girlfriend did a good job, but some were vastly more interesting and well pulled off than other characters. So I don't know. What did you think about the acting, Marcia?
I think it's hilarious that we're opposite on this, on almost everything, except for we both didn't really enjoy the movie. But I thought the nurse was the only, and maybe just because his character was the only one that kind of made sense and was helpful. I thought he did a good job. I was, except for the fact that what he ended up doing was the worst thing anybody could do. Don't send out your best hope to test the waters. But other than that, I did like the core family as well. I did like the doctor just because I think I just like that actor. So, but I agree that the character
was that Rufus Sewell?
Didn't make sense.
Was that, now that I'm thinking on it, was that Rufus Sewell, the guy from Dark City?
I like that actor, so I dug him. I just thought, and what? Are you there?
Yeah, no, you were cutting out pretty bad for a second, but.
Yeah, it's the storm. I apologize. I think that's it's giving us interference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen him in other things. I like him. I do think that a lot of the characters were really shallow, except for the core family, and I think that was our biggest problem, probably with the acting, was just they didn't have any depth or longevity with them. But I think the kids did a really good job, even though they changed actors. The characters themselves, because they had more depth to them, were successful. And that's kind of where I went. And I agree with the whole thing. Every time I saw M. Night Shyamalan in there, I was like, oh, look, it's him. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, it's him again.
Yeah. Yeah. The recurring aspect was like, really, bro? You gonna take me out of this movie twice? 3 times?
You do, man.
Now, here's something I have to say, and maybe I should have said this more in this story. Normally, one of the things that I like about M. Night Shyamalan is he can handle tone pretty well, and it's pretty, evenly toned, where it can be depressing, and then it can be funny, and then it can be this or that. This one was relentlessly and gratuitously cruel throughout the whole movie. Like, there is very little to stop and enjoy in this film. It's just bad thing after bad thing after a hopeless situation after a hopeless situation, and it's just not fun to watch when there's no moments of respite, no moments of levity. After the first 20 minutes, there's like almost no humor through the whole movie. So it's just an exercise in depression, and just how depressed are we going to get by the end of this thing? You know what I mean? And so that's not fun for me. I don't need that in my life. I need a better balanced film. And so it was, again, relentlessly and gratuitously cruel to the characters. And it's not a fun watch in that way. So that was a big problem I had for it. Can you speak on that at all?
No, I absolutely agree with that. I did not come out of the movie feeling good, and it's weird to say that because you're going into a horror movie, and most people don't feel good in a horror movie, but you kind of do, right? Because like if it's a story you enjoy and it's the levels of why you go to a horror movie and you have fun, the excitement, you just don't have that. They had some elements, and we'll talk about the special effects, so where there was some interesting horror moments. Like I said, you're facing your own self and realize, and you're like, hey, you only have this much longer, and your looks don't matter. What you're arguing with your spouse or partner about right now is not going to matter. And one day it's going to be done, and it's up to you to decide how you're going to live that and what's your next move. And it's like, okay, I have to face that every day, but thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
And now I have to I don't know.
To your point, Marcia, I think this is clearly M. Night dealing with his own recognition of his own mortality and that he's getting closer to it, right? This is obviously that thing, where he woke up one day and was like, oh my God, like I'm getting closer and closer, and have I been living my life right and all this? And he's like, you know what? That's a movie. And so that's where I feel like this came from, and it's a little on the nose all the way throughout it. It's never quite revolutionary, never quite revelatory, never quite like, oh wow, that was poignant. None of that actually happens. It's all stuff that we've all wrestled with on a basic level, but the problem is it never ascends beyond that basic level, in my opinion. When I think another pass or two at the script, you could have really deepened some of the dialogue and added some of those elements, and it would have made the movie a little bit stronger, in my opinion.
And it even added moments where there was like levity,
Yeah.
like them laughing at their situation, even if it was just like hystericalness, or what am I gonna do? And I think they try to do that with the baby situation, but it just quickly turned.
That was one of the most needlessly cruel moments in the whole thing, I gotta say. Like, that made me cry. I literally teared up at that because I was obviously so, both of us, so fresh with young kids. My God, that affected me so heavily, and I was like, that's just fucking mean to do to your audience, and it all happens so fast, and you're like, you're blindsided by it, even though you see it coming for about the 10 minutes prior due to the setup. It like blindsides you with how sudden everything happens, and I feel like it's just written to dig at your heart, and it's not written to like play up the drama, because I don't know, it felt exploitative in some ways, I guess, but maybe that's just the new father in me that felt that way.
Yeah, I get, like you said, it was needless. Like, you didn't need to have that moment at all.
No.
You didn't have to drag your characters through it. Even without it, they could have ended up at the same point that they ended up in and follow the same pathways without, just completely just being a downer. Huge downer for everybody involved. And I agree, like, it kind of turned me off for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's all I could think about after that,
and then they revisit it 20 minutes later, and they break your heart all over again with it. And
like
I'm like,
worse.
Jesus
It
Christ.
was even worse
Yeah.
because of how they presented it, and just
Mhm.
because they brought back a comment from a year before, and it's just like, just
Yeah.
why?
Again,
Why do we have to do this?
needlessly cruel this movie felt. And
Yeah.
that's not fun. That's not a fun watch for me. So, yeah, let's touch on the effects before we close this out, Marcia.
Yeah.
Effects-wise, I thought it was interesting. Some of the stuff was done well. Some of the makeup wasn't as good as some of the other makeup. There was one extraordinarily horrific moment that I actually quite enjoyed, where if you think about the moment in the Karate Kid Part 2 when everyone is twisting their little drums and the little things are like just going like this, and it's like someone's taking their arms and just doing that. That moment really was disturbing. But outside of that, yeah, I felt like some of the old age makeup worked and some of the old age makeup didn't work, and people I felt like due to the makeup were aging at different paces, even though they're supposed to be aging at the same pace. So I felt like the effects were a bit of a mixed bag for me. What about for you?
Yeah, and one thing, and I keep going back to the science, but it also it talks about the effects too, because like you were saying, like people were aging differently, which could be genetics, whatever. You
Sure.
can play it off, but at the same time, like the kids were aging so rapidly, it didn't make sense that they like lived all like 25 years within one 24-hour period, but then like the parents, I feel like if your children are growing that rapidly, you're gonna definitely notice it on yourselves
Yeah.
faster than what they did. But
I agree. I felt like that took a little too long as well.
yeah, but other than that, I agree. The cave incident and that whole aspect was like probably the best part of the whole movie, and it was really well done. But there really, other than the aging makeup and that piece, and a couple other fast healing things, there wasn't much more to report, special effects wise. So I think they put all their money into that one scene and just kind of just like throw some makeup on them. It's fine.
Yeah. Now,
So.
I did want to also mention the cinematography in this one, because it bothered me. It legitimately bothered me at times. At times it was beautiful. At times it was good. It was scenic. It was cool. But he did a lot of experimentation in this where the camera would be facing up as like three characters were crowded around, but they would all be crowded around and they'd already be at the outskirts of the shot, and yet it felt like the camera would be pushing in on the nothingness, on the negative space of the shot, like bringing everyone out of the shot. And I didn't see any particular story-driven purpose for that. So it felt like a lot of times it was interesting camera angle for interesting camera angle's sake, and not for storytelling purposes' sake. Now, sometimes it was good. Like there was one time where, so again, there's some tension in the main marriage, and at one point, one kid is playing in front of the mom with one toy, and then the other kid is playing in front of the dad with one toy. The girl is playing with a female, like a Barbie type toy, and the boy is playing with a male robot. And he framed it where at one point, like when the kids run off, the male toy is sitting across the screen from the wife, and the female toy is sitting across the screen from the husband in the next angle. So it shows that there's that separation between the man and the female by the, it was like, that was clever. I was like, oh, let's get more of that. And then we didn't get any more of that. Like that, the rest of it was just odd angle for odd angle's sake. So again, even the cinematography was a bit of a mixed bag, but a bit more of a negative one than anything else. Did the camera angles catch your notice at all in this one?
Well, I did notice, like, it was hard for me to follow some of the storyline because I couldn't figure out who I was supposed to be looking at, right? Like, there'd be action in the front scene, and then, but something's happening off in the background, and it was just moving so fast, and it kind of goes into the storytelling, right? You're going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and it was just like chaotic, and I felt like I couldn't catch up sometimes visually to move my attention to where it needed to go. And I think what you just explained probably is why, because if there's a lot of negative space and nothing's focusing on a specific target, it's hard to tell. The viewer doesn't know what they're supposed to be looking at. They're supposed to be looking at the person coming in, or they're supposed to be looking what's in front of them. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here, and it was too jumbled up and confusing.
And maybe to perhaps give too much credit to M. Night, Maybe that's what he wanted, right? Maybe he wanted you to be confused the way the characters are. They don't know what they should be looking at. They don't know what they should be doing. Maybe that's what he's trying to filter down to the audience. But unfortunately, the way he did it was detrimental to the movie-going experience rather than augmentative. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I feel like that's pretty much as we can say on this without getting into spoilers. But, yeah, unfortunately, it was just a bit of a mixed bag. And I was more on the negative side of it than the positive side of it. Marcia, were you more negative or more positive?
It's so weird. I feel weird about this movie. Like, I don't think I would want to watch it again. I don't think I would recommend it because I have it. But at the same time, like, I did like the perspective of human mortality and just that message itself. I feel like if he would have kind of presented the rest of the package in a different way, it would have been successful. Because that part right there, even though it is depressing and kind of like cruel at times, but that's kind of what life is. So I can appreciate that, but I don't think the way it was presented was enough for a recommendation.
Fair. And I would agree. So, yeah, guys, wait on this one. Don't go to the theater to see it. Not worth the COVID risk. Not worth the theatrical money, in my opinion. Wait until it's on a streaming service. That would be my recommendation for it. So, I appreciate you guys. If you've stuck around to this point, thank you so much for watching all the way up to here or watching it all. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel directly as you do. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to become a patron, the link is in the description box down below. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And remember, stay scared.
Scared.